everyone, welcome back to Art a la Carte. Snacks. Speaking of snacks, I was trying to come up with a video idea for today and hey, it just was right in front of me. I decided to do a realism challenge where you take an item and try to draw it as realistically as you possibly can. Now, many of you know my art style is not hyper-realism. I'm very cartoony, illustrated look. So this is a big challenge for me, but I wanted to amp up the challenge a little bit more and put a time limit. So I gave myself 30 minutes to complete this challenge from start to finish. So yes, I will not make you watch the full 30 minutes in their entire glory. I'm going to speed this up, so it's going to be but mere moments for you, but it was 30 minutes for me on my clock. Just in case you're wondering what I'm drawing, it is a Cheez It, white cheddar, in fact. Quite delicious. But very oily. I don't recommend eating them and doing art at the same time. But it was really fun to draw. So I decided to go ahead and do this in color pencils. I'd kind of debated doing this in Copic marker, but I would have had to wait so long between laying down marker ink and let that dry, otherwise the ink would have just kind of bled everywhere. And because I was on a really tight time limit, I needed something that I didn't have to wait for it to dry, so I decided to go with the color pencils. So I'm using a Prismacolor color pencils and working on just regular kind of cardstock paper. It's a little bit smoother than I would have liked it to be, so one of the things I had to do was to make sure that I layered on my layers very lightly and I didn't push super hard. If you push really hard with your pencil or color pencil or crayon, what it does is it smooshes out the paper. You may have heard about paper having teeth, or the tooth of a paper, and that just means the roughness of it. So if you run your hand along your paper, and some drawing papers are going to be fairly smooth, some of them are going to have a pretty nice texture. The more texture or fibrous they are, the more they're going to absorb things or are going to grab onto things. So if you go to an art store and you run your hand on what they consider drawing paper, you're going to find it's a smoother texture, where if you run your hand across sketch paper, you're going to find it's has a little bit rougher feel to it. And depending on what you want your art supplies to do will depend on what kind of art paper you use. Technically, with color pencil, you want something that has a little bit more tooth on it so it can grab more of the pigment. If you push too hard on your paper, what it does is it smooths out the rough spots and doesn't allow it to grab anymore. It's called burnishing. So you want to save your pressure for the very last. As I begin to lay on the color, I'm using a very, very light hand. I'm also working from my lightest shades to my darkest shades to build them up, because it's harder to pull color out of or lay a lighter tone over a darker tone. So you kind of have to go carefully. Now, again, I have not done a lot of realism challenges, so I made one little mistake, and you'll kind of see it as this progresses along here. There are two viewpoints that I have. One is the viewpoint that you guys have, which is my camera viewpoint, and one is my actual viewpoint, which is slightly at an angle. So you'll see as I'm laying these colors, the shadows are a bit different. That's because I kept forgetting to check the viewpoint that you guys are seeing until I got pretty far along in here, and I went, oh, yeah, it looks good from my angle, but if you look at it from your angle, it's not going to be exactly the same. Most notably would be the center of the cracker. From my viewpoint, it's at an angle, so you don't actually see the white of the paper. But from your angle, you definitely see the white of the paper, so I have to fix that at the end. There were some things that I couldn't fix, like the shadow towards the bottom of the cracker on one side is more pronounced than the other. In your viewpoint, from my viewpoint, both sides were very pronounced. It's a learning process. I ended up figuring that I really actually need to draw looking at the camera and not at my hand, which that in itself was rather challenging to watch my hand draw on camera rather than actually watching what I was doing, but it worked out. Another thing you want to take a look for is to not just assume a color. You want to really look closely and determine what colors there are. So you'll see later on I'm adding in actually a green tone over top of the yellowish orange. because that was the closest that I could get for the shadow tone. It wasn't like a brown tone or a blue tone. It wasn't even kind of a reddish tone. The shadows were kind of greenish in my eye, so that's why I have a little bit of green. I did attempt to put a little blue in the shadow and then realized it really isn't blue, it's more of a dull purple, but I'd already laid the blue in. So in the end, I see some flaws in this, but in the end, I learned so much from this challenge by really observing exactly what it is I'm drawing and not what I think I'm drawing, and how to really get the perspective and all sorts of different things. So I highly recommend that you guys do a drawing challenge. I could have spent hours and hours on this and I didn't want to do that. You could set yourself a time limit. Set yourself 15 minutes to draw something as realistic as you can. It doesn't matter if you get it done, just give yourself that time limit. Or if you do have a lot of time, then just, you know, let yourself work at it until you come to the end. I really think this is something that every artist should challenge themselves with every once in a while, whether they normally do realism challenges or not. I think it's good for us to push ourselves in areas that maybe we're not so comfortable with. Have you ever done a realism challenge before? If you have, let me know in the comment section below. Or if you have a picture of it, make sure to post it to my Instagram or Twitter. I'll leave the links to those in the description box below. If you're brand new to this channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any future videos. I don't do a lot of realistic pictures, but I do a lot of other types of artwork. If you have any suggestions for any upcoming videos, make sure to let me know in the comment section below. I'm always interested in hearing what you guys want to see on this channel. So until next time, thanks for watching. God bless you guys, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye. Now I feel like eating Cheez Its again. Mmm.